Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal War Room. I'm your host, Corky, and today's guest is going to be Mr. John Methencamp from the Myth, Monsters, and Mullets podcast. Now, I'm grateful to have spent some time with him today and learned just a little bit of his knowledge on the subject. So class is definitely in session, guys. Let's get at it.
In the Paranormal War Room, the legends arise. We're diving deep down where the truth never lies. Diving deep down where the truth never lies. Unravel the mysteries, let the stories unfold. This beat, these tales are daring and bold.
John Methencamp, how are you doing, buddy?
Man, I am wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Myth, Monsters, and Mullets, you are a legend. You know, you are somebody I definitely look up to and with doing these podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm grateful that you've decided to come on and do my little show this morning and just letting you know I really appreciate it, man. So thank you very much.
Well, you're too kind. I'm very new to this stuff too. I've been doing it less than a year, so.
Right. Well, you know, I do another podcast. And we've been doing it, you know, right at a year. But as far as my little paranormal show here, it's been like this. I'm about a month in, so a little bit new to doing all this stuff by myself. I've usually got a whole crew of guys with me to kind of help carry the show along. But, you know, we're just going to have a conversation if that's all right with you today, because I'm very curious about the Bigfoot community and all this good stuff. So I was binging one of your shows at work the other day and heard some stuff that I had never heard of about Bigfoot. So I knew when I was going to talk to you, I wanted to talk to you about it. So basically, I'd like to know just what got you into Bigfoot and stuff like that.
Well, I won't go into everything because it might be a 6-part episode, but I had a paranormal encounter in 2021 and it changed my outlook on if ghosts are real, then what else is real?
Right.
So I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. And after listening to all these encounters, I'm like, holy crap, I had some stuff that happened like that when I was a kid. But at the time, I didn't believe in Bigfoot or that any paranormal existed. And the more I listened, the more I was like, yeah, that kind of stuff happened to me. I never saw anything, you know, but, you know, I'd smelled some weird things, one Sasquatch Chronicles, that was the first time I heard the Ohio howl.
Right.
And when I heard that, like, it was like electricity because like all the hair stood up on my arms and stuff because I had heard that when I was a kid and didn't realize that, you know, at the time I just thought, man, that was weird. It was just something weird that happened. But hearing the Ohio howl, I was like, holy cow, I think this thing exists.
That's funny you say that, man, because like I was saying, I was binging your awesome show that you have, dude. I listen to it, you know, every week at work. And you were interviewing somebody, and I'm sorry it slips me now who you're interviewing. And they were talking about, is it the Infrasound? Is that what it's called? Something like that?
Yeah, that could have been Todd Neese.
Okay.
I think Todd Neese and I discussed Infrasound quite a bit.
So I'd never heard of that, right? So as you guys were talking about it and describing it and all that stuff, it made me think about something that happened to me back when I was a teenager. I live in East Tennessee. Well, I lived way back in what we call the knobs. You know, it's kind of like the hills in between the mountains and stuff like that. Way back out there, man. I don't even think they've got high-speed internet out there today. You know, it's one of those places. It's real rural.
Well, I was in that area just a few weeks ago. They barely have electricity in some of those areas.
Yeah, I guarantee it, man. This place is back there. But I would always go out there, and there was even some old abandoned railroad tracks that run through these knobs, you know, overgrown and stuff like that. So I was always all the time spending my time in the woods back then because I lived way out in the country, had no friends around me and all that stuff. So all this time I was spending by myself, I'd, you know, wander out in the woods and, you know, do my thing. But one night I was sitting at home and my stepdad was out on the porch because he was like a big coon hunter and he always was outside doing something. But one night I was back in there in my bedroom and he called me. He said, "Hey, come out here on the porch." I said, "Okay, that's weird," because, you know, he never tells me to come out on the porch. So I come out on the porch and you know, if you can picture, you're looking off the side of our porch and looking back to your left is these huge knobs. I mean, just rolling hills and that go right up into Star Mountain. That's the big mountain range right next to where I live. And I said, what? You know, I said, what? And he goes, I don't know. He said, just stand here and listen. And after a few minutes, I heard this sound that echoed through that hollow. And it hit me like a bolt of electricity. And it it physically shot through my body, made every hair I have stand up on end, and scared me to death. So back to the point that I fell backwards, fell onto the porch, you know, like something had hit me and knocked me back. And I jumped up and ran into the house and was so terrified the rest of the night that I wouldn't leave the house. And these are the same woods that before this, I would go back there by myself, walk around, pretend like I was deer hunting and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to do nothing, but I would explore these woods by myself. And until then, I just thought, well, maybe it was just a sound that scared me. But until I listened to your show the other week and I heard about this infrasound, I'm thinking I got hit by it, because a sound shouldn't scare you like that or knock you back 2 or 3 feet. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this. Did you feel any like nausea or anything like that?
Yeah, I got sick for 2 days after that. I physically threw up, could not leave the house for 2 or 3 days. I was so sick after that.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's one of the things that people report with this, you know. Matthew over at Drunken Cryptids, he just had an encounter not long ago, and he said he just felt out of it, like mentally out of it after being hit with this stuff. So
yeah. When it happened, I chalked it up as just being a little sissy or something like that. You know, I just got scared because I heard something that sounded, and it wasn't like a cow mooing or anything. It was like I can't even really explain the sound it was, but it was terrifying. That's all I can tell you. And I listened to another show you were doing the other day, and you were speaking to somebody, and they were telling you all these encounters they had all happened when they was around 14 years old. And
yeah,
I got to thinking, and I actually texted you or commented on the Spotify video or whatever. When this happened to me, I was 14 years old. That's exactly when it happened to me. So my mind's blown, man. That's why I wanted you to come on the show today and maybe school me in some of this stuff, because I'm new with the Bigfoot thing. And now that I think that's happened to me, you know, I just want to know what your take is on all that.
Well, let me ask you this: as far as the sound that you heard, have you ever heard an alligator?
No, we don't got no gators in Tennessee.
Okay, I would challenge you to, because you kind of made it sound like maybe it was like kind of resembled like a cow mooing, like it was that low.
Well, at the risk of being embarrassed on worldwide on the internet here, I'll do my best impression for it. It kind of went like or something like that, you know, but much scarier.
I would challenge you to maybe listen to some videos or some recordings of alligators when they growl.
Really? Well, let me tell you something. If I go out in the woods,
I'm not saying that what you encountered was an alligator.
Right.
That has been reported with some Bigfoot encounters, that the sound that they make does kind of resemble.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
An alligator growl.
I get what you're saying. The thing about it is back in those days when I would go walk through the woods and stuff like that, I was never looking for any sign or anything like that for Bigfoot. So, man, I could have been walking over God knows what, you know. But I live about 20 minutes from that area, so me and my wife are going to be taking some night drives up through there and see what we can find. So maybe, you never know, I may run across a Bigfoot up there. But
well, like I told you before we started recording, I was interviewing Chris Goins' daughter the other night, and there in Cleveland, she had some encounters that to me sound like Bigfoot.
Really? And see, that's 30 minutes from me. I was in Cleveland last night, so it sounds like we may be surrounded by some Bigfoot around here. So it's definitely interesting, and I've got some stuff I'm going to be going to do.
That whole area is known for sightings. You know, I was down in Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
I've been through there, yeah.
Have you been to the Expedition Bigfoot Museum down there?
Nope, I've seen it in pictures, but I've never been into Bigfoot. I've never even cared up until I started listening to your show. Never cared about Bigfoot. I was always
Well,
a
it wouldn't be
ghost
that
guy, you know.
right. It wouldn't be that far of a drive for you, and Blue Ridge is beautiful.
Right.
You know, if you could probably take a day trip down there and, you know, hang out in Blue Ridge, but just outside of Blue Ridge between I never know how to say it. It's either Elijah or Elijah. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's whichever
But
one you want, I guess, ain't it?
right, between Blue Ridge and Elijah, that's how I say it.
Yeah.
And I apologize to my listeners in Georgia
Right.
if I'm saying it wrong, but but that's where the Expedition Bigfoot Museum is, and it is a very interesting place.
Yeah, I've told you about my cousin Michael that, you know, we talked about. He has a little YouTube channel. He posts
I
pictures
follow
from
him.
that place all the time down there. So I've seen it. I know where it's at. I think it's like maybe an hour and a half drive from here, but definitely want to check that out, dude. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is I've also heard that maybe Bigfoot, the reason they're so elusive is there might be physical creatures or interdimensional. What are your takes on that?
Well, I'm going to say this,
Mhm.
and anybody who says that they are an expert on Bigfoot are not experts.
I
There are
agree with
no
that
experts
100%. Yeah.
in anything that is paranormal. Okay.
hmm
That is the reason it's paranormal. It's outside the realm of science, mainstream science. You may have a lot of personal experiences with Bigfoot, but that doesn't make you an expert.
Right.
I am 49 years old.
hmm
Of my adult life, I've been married a total of 20 years. Okay. I am not an expert in women, and I see them every day. Okay.
Are you
So
sure with hair like that, man? Are you sure you're not an expert on women? Because I can tell you right now, it's business in the front and party in the back, baby. That's what I'm saying.
my shirt right now, you can't see it, but on the back it says podcaster up front and cougar hunter in the back.
God dang, that's awesome, man. That's what I call marketing right there, baby. That's awesome. I hope you're going to
But
sell some of
where I
those
was-
at the Bigfoot conference next weekend. You know,
I'm not going to have T-shirts there. I'm looking for a supplier, but that's a whole nother
story there. Yeah.
But as far as Bigfoot goes, there are a lot of people who claim to be experts and are very passionate about their views because that's what they've experienced with Bigfoot.
Mhm.
Okay. And one of the things that kind of irks me with the Bigfoot community is people like to, and this goes with all aspects of life. They like to put themselves in camps.
Right.
Okay. And once they get so deep into that camp, they refuse to see or listen to the encounters from the other camps.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm in. You basically have two camps. You have the flesh and blood. Let's call it three. Flesh and blood. You have the paranormal group. You know that they're interdimensional beings.
Right.
They're not this realm. And then you have a group that kind of sits on the fence. Okay, that's where I sit, is on the fence, because and solely because we don't know what this thing is.
Right.
It hasn't been studied biologically as far as a body that we know of.
Right.
Smithsonian probably has one, but that's another topic. You know, so for people to sit there and say you're wrong, you know, when you talk about an experience that you've had, that's hogwash to me. You know, I've had experiences with several different things, and that doesn't mean that you can have a dog. Okay, this could be your pet that you have had for 10 years and has been just the sweetest animal that you've ever owned, you know, so loving and kind, and you come home one day and find out that this dog has bit the neighbor.
Right.
Okay, your neighbor got bit by this dog. That doesn't make the dog vicious from the neighbor's point of view. You know that, you know, you don't know what set the dog off. Okay, from your point of view, well, that could never happen because the dog's never done that before.
Right.
That's how I look at Bigfoot. Just because you've had this experience with one or two creatures doesn't mean that every creature is exactly the same or does exhibit all of their behaviors to you.
Exactly. You know, one thing that makes me give little credibility to the Bigfoot phenomena is everybody knows what a silverback gorilla is. You know,
Mhm.
those things weren't discovered until 1902. You know, that's not really modern times, but that's relatively modern times. You know, how can a beast that big be roaming around the jungle? And up until 1902, that was just rumors and legends, you know, and stuff like that. So,
And
I,
let me put it this way though. You say discovered.
right,
They were discovered long ago. It's just that the so-called educated people,
exactly, yeah.
the Europeans that, oh my God. Oh, I can't even say the word.
And
Um,
I'm not even going to try. I know the word you're
oh
trying to
my
say, but
goodness.
it's
They think that they're better than everybody and
yes,
smarter
yes,
than everybody else. And for some reason I'm tongue tied this morning.
yeah,
And maybe I'll you can put it in the description what I was trying to say there.
yeah.
Um,
We'll add a dictionary insert there. Eccentric. I know what you're trying to
it,
say, but you know,
exceptionalism, whatever. I'm tongue tied this
look,
morning.
I'm from Tennessee. It don't really matter, man. You know, we know what you're saying.
So as explorers, and we're the cream of the crop.
Yeah,
We go into these areas, whether it's Africa or North America, and Matthew says this all the time, and I'm going to borrow it from him. These explorers went into Africa and they're like, yep, there's a giraffe out there, and white people were like, yep, we've seen those before, they exist. There's an elephant, yep, we've seen those before, they exist. Well, there's this silverback gorilla, never seen that, can't exist. Nope.
yep.
But
That's a
we know
lie.
better than you. We
Yeah,
know better than the people that have lived in this area for thousands of years.
yeah,
And it's the same thing with Bigfoot. The Native Americans, their stories go back tens of thousands of years.
exactly.
They all have this basically the same story. They it's not even a matter of belief to them. It's just reality that these creatures exist. And we need to listen to these stories. We need to listen to their oral histories.
I was interviewing Adam Cook a few weeks ago, and he likes to talk about all kind. He's like nearly full-blooded Cherokee Indian, so he has all these legends and stuff. He's like our local folklore guy around where I live at, and I was kept trying to direct him to the conversation of Bigfoot, you know, and he was telling me about all these raven mockers and spear fingers and stuff like that. But I kept saying, "Hey, what about Bigfoot?" You know, and he told me, you know, even the Cherokee, everybody's got the same, you know, the legend of the big hairy man that walks through the woods. They may not call him Bigfoot. I forget the name he said the Cherokee had for it, but you know, everybody has these same stories. Like every culture has a story for the Great Flood. So it seems like every culture has stories of these big, giant, hairy men that walk around. But one thing that makes me wonder, let's say Bigfoot is real. I think there's a pretty good chance that there's a species out there that we haven't discovered. But how do you think, Mr. Methencamp, that has stayed hidden for so long
Well,
in this day and age with the technology like it is and stuff like that?
that is one of the arguments that everybody uses. Where's the body? Why haven't we got a really good video? You're talking about a creature that has evolved to avoid humans.
Right.
Even the Native Americans talk, the ones that I have talked to, interviewed, that at some point in the history, there was a rift between the Native Americans and the Sasquatch creatures, and some of them that I've talked to, it happened kind of around the same time that white people came to North America.
Yeah.
And, bringing their violence and their weapons and stuff like that. Not saying that the Native Americans didn't have wars. They did. But they saw this new brand of humans coming in and said, you know what? It's time for us to part ways.
Right.
But they've evolved in this landscape. Okay. Like with most creatures, you can watch a deer walk through the woods, be in your deer stand, watching this deer, and it comes up on you, and it'll get behind a tree, and it just basically kind of disappears because it just blends in.
Right.
Or it knows how to use the terrain to hide from you. Yes, I mean, deer are more plentiful.
Exactly.
So of course we're going to see tons of them. And I think it's a numbers thing. I don't think that there are, tens and thousands of these creatures out there. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert. So it's not like deer where you got millions of deer, say there's 10,000 of them. Well, if you spread those 10,000 across North America, your odds of seeing them are very slim.
Exactly. Let's not even say 10,000. If this is a truly undiscovered species, let's say there's 50, 25 of them. If the numbers are like that, and these creatures are very intelligent enough to know these guys without all this hair that don't look like us are dangerous, then the odds go way up there. You're not going to catch them on a trail cam. You're not going to catch them on a drone. You're not going to see them ever. So, maybe it's one of those things where there's not 10,000 of them, there's not 1,000 of them, but there's 50 of them. I'm not a biologist. I don't know how those things go, but you can't.
I would think that there has to be more than that. And the reason I say that is because of the area in which they are seen. They are seen in all 50 states. They're seen in Canada, all over Canada. For there to be a breeding population, I think there would have to be way more than 50.
Oh yeah.
I would think, and to sustain a species, once you get down into, less than 100 individuals, unless they're all together, the gene pool would be so shallow that they would end up, just dying off because,
Yeah, when you talk about it like that,
abnormalities.
and you look at the wide range of like all the states and probably a lot of other countries, yeah, that'd have to be more than 50. But the number may be low is what I'm saying. And
Right.
if
I
the
understand what you're saying.
if the numbers is low because and then if they're intelligent enough, man, you take like a polar bear, their hair is actually, I think it's clear. Their hair is clear. And the reason it shows white is because they're in an environment that's white with snow and stuff like that. So, man, there's no telling the type of camouflage these things may have. And like I said, we think that they're just a hairy, ape-like creature walking around in the woods, but they may be very intelligent, and that may be the reason why we don't see them, because they don't want us to see them. And thinking about the infrasound thing that happened to me, there's something going on. I'm not really sure what it is, but like I said, I'm new to this. I'm just now starting to dig in, which brings me to my next question for you. Again, we're hypothetically speaking, Bigfoots are real. What do you think to this date is the best evidence that makes you think they're real?
Well, to me, it's the personal encounters, like the people coming forward. That evidence alone is staggering. People think that, oh, well, that's just, they're making that up. They're trying to, they're hoaxing, or they want their 15 minutes of fame. I can guarantee you that the only people listening to Bigfoot encounters are people that have an interest. You're not going to get any fame. You're not going to make any money by telling this story. You're risking people hearing you and making fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to gain by coming out and telling your encounter. So that argument gets thrown out as far as I'm concerned, as far as how many people are making it up or hoaxing.
Right.
Are there some people that misidentified? Absolutely. Absolutely there are. Because, I mean, that's just human nature. We see faces where there's no faces. Okay. That's our wiring in our brain, pareidolia,
Right.
But I mean, I have had people that didn't just catch a glimpse of these things. I've had people on my show that have had, minutes of visually seeing this creature, watching it move. It wasn't just standing there still and, well, that was probably a tree stump. No, these people saw this thing walking,
God,
they heard it. They've smelled it. They've seen it interacting with its environment. That's not something that, that's, you just mistook a bear for. A lot of people use the black bear. Black bear are not 8 feet tall and 1,000 pounds.
No, by no means are they.
So the argument that, they're just mistaken or they're lying or whatever, not everybody can be lying. If only one person out of the thousands and thousands of people that have come forward saying that they've seen this thing are telling the truth, then this thing exists. So to me, that's the biggest one. As far as, like film, Patterson Gimlin, that's got to be up there. There's a lot of people who say it's been debunked, but even the people that came forward said they hoaxed it, they've been debunked.
Exactly. Yeah.
The guy that said he was wearing the costume, they show the freaking costume. It looks nothing like Patty. It looks like something you would buy at, dollar store. There's no way that in that era that they had the kind of special effects to make that video.
What year did that come out in? Do you know right offhand?
Was it 56?
Yeah, they didn't.
1956?
Yeah, they should have been out there holding up a camcorder that you'd be cranking and stuff like that back in 56.
It was.
Oh, really?
It was. That's exactly what it was.
Wow.
That's why that video, like Patty looks like she's walking so fast.
Right.
It's because how fast he was cranking his hand. Okay?
Yeah, I don't buy that for a minute, man.
Right. There wasn't all this video editing software and stuff that we have now, or these AI generated videos, the Bigfoot vlogs and stuff like that.
Those
which I love. I think they're freaking hilarious.
Yeah, they are, man. They are.
So that's got to be way up there. The accounts from like Ape Canyon,
where's that at?
That was in Oregon.
Okay.
Is that Oregon or Washington? It's Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon and Washington's boundaries are weird. Like you don't even realize you went in from one to the other. Right. So it's in the Mount St. Helens area. So I guess that's Washington.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Ground zero, baby.
Right. It is Washington. But back in the 20s, I think it was the 20s, there was this mining group. They were up in this cabin. They were prospecting or whatever. And there was a whole series of events that led up to this, but they had seen some kind of creature earlier in the day. And then later that night, their cabin got attacked. Okay.
Oh, man.
Multiple creatures. The guys in the cabin are like shooting through the walls. They're, these creatures are trying to get in. The next, they end up getting out of there the next day or whatever, and they go into town. Their story gets out. People go to the cabin and actually see holes in this, like people went and they could see that something happened there.
Yeah. And
this isn't just one person telling the story. There were multiple miners that told the same story. It made the newspapers, things like that. When you have multiple people reporting the exact same thing, they can't all be, mistaking a bear.
Yeah, there's just no chance in that, man.
And bears don't throw rocks. That's another big one for me. When people are saying rocks are being thrown at them, name another creature in North America that can throw a rock.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking pebbles.
Yeah,
I'm not talking pebbles. I'm talking 40-pound boulders.
Wow,
flying over your head.
Man, I've never heard that story. See, the more I dig into this, man, the more my curiosity is just blown right now because I don't understand how it's weird for me because I don't understand how you can have a creature like that and we've not discovered it to this point. But man, like you are saying, the evidence is just mounting up more and more. I talked to a guy the other night and I told him, I said, yeah, technology has made it the evidence kind of skewed that maybe it's not real. But the more I talk about it, the more I don't think technology even matters anymore because, if you've got a smart being out there, it doesn't matter what's going on. If they don't want you to see them, they're not going to let you see them. Which brings me to one of my final questions I want to ask you about, John. Let's say right now Bigfoot's confirmed, right? And we know we've got a body, we've got a live specimen, whatever it is. What do you think is going to happen after that if we confirm that? What do you think is going to happen?
I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, one of the reasons they hide it is because, it would kill the timber industry. It would kill the, travel industry, things like that. They're probably right. But I don't think, and this is just my personal opinion, and everybody that's listening, I'm nobody. I'm not an expert.
Come on, you're John Methencamp. Don't be saying that, baby. Come on. The legend, son.
One of the theories that I cannot give up on, and I know there's going to be people out there, they disagree with this. is the Nephilim Connection.
Oh, here we go. Please
And
dig into this for me, man.
so, there's a lot of people who believe that Bigfoot is a descendant of the Nephilim. Okay. Some people think that they are Nephilim.
Now, the
I
Nephilim,
don't-
for everybody that may not know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Nephilim are basically a species that angels came down, mated with humans, which made the
Correct.
Nephilim. Am I right on that? Okay. Continue,
Correct.
please.
If Nephilim were only mentioned a few times in the Bible, specifically in that reference,
Uh-huh.
but in the non-canonical books, such as the Book of Enoch, Book of Giants,
Yes,
things like
sir.
that, they go into more detail about it. Now, there are valid reasons why these books are not included in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
Some of the stuff goes against Scripture, goes against the rest of the Bible, so it's like, maybe this wasn't, and it was written over a long period of time
Right.
by multiple people, like the Book of Enoch. So I understand why it's not in the Bible, but it was written at the same time as the Bible. So these are the stories that people were telling. These are the oral histories that these people were telling. These were facts to these people. And it may not fit with the Bible, but it's still things that were known. So not only did you have Nephilim, which were the direct descendants of angels and humans, but then their offspring, I think they called them Raphaim.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Okay.
So it starts getting diluted. The bloodline starts getting diluted. For people who think that the Great Flood took out all the Nephilim, that's not true, because Goliath happened after the flood.
Exactly.
And Goliath just wasn't, a 6'8" guy, so I think they said he was like 9 foot or 10 foot tall, and his body proportions were 1-2, or is that how it goes? The body proportions were all wrong to be a human. Okay. So we know that the bloodline existed after the flood. So now we're a couple thousand years down the road, and that bloodline has been diluted even more and more and more and more and more. Okay. So now let's, and this is all just a theory. Bigfoot let's say they're related to the Nephilim. What is the one thing that the government fears more than you and I rising up against them?
Shoot, man. Don't get me started on this subject. The government fears a lot of things, but I'm not sure what answer you're looking for, but the government, I don't know. What answer are you looking for? Because I'll go a lot of run.
My theory is, and I believe this is wholeheartedly true, the one thing that they fear more than us rising up is that religion is true.
Exactly.
Because if religion is true, that puts more power in the church and takes away power from the government.
Right.
So if it were discovered that Sasquatch is related to the Nephilim, that would prove part of the Bible, which takes power away from the government. So they have every reason to hide this from us,
and a bunch of other things like, UFO, aliens, and all that good stuff. Because if any one of those things are ever confirmed to be true, then we got to question everything. And everything we question is valid at that point, because now we know what we've been told is not true our whole life and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of stuff. I can go on and on. This isn't a government show by no means, but I got a lot of opinions about the government and everything that's going on right now, but I don't trust our government and stuff like that. So there's no doubt in my mind that if they know any of this stuff, and I'm not talking about just Bigfoot, any type of cryptid, UFOs, aliens, whatever, they've got all the reasons in the world to hide it from us,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, John, this brings me back to the end. You've really enlightened me on some of this stuff, man. But, you've got some stuff coming up here in the next week or so, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, next Saturday, October 4th, I will be at the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree in Ada, Ohio. This is the second year for that. It's put on by Cryptids of the Corn, another great podcast.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Our friends at Nevermore Hollows will be there.
Yeah, we love those guys, man.
Yeah, if it weren't for Alan, I wouldn't have a podcast. Actually,
Really?
he's the one. He's the one that convinced me to start one. So
He also introduced us. You know,
that's right.
he's a good guy. He's networked us all together, man. So we really appreciate that guy, man. He's a good guy. I'm going to get him on here
Absolutely.
in the next week or so if I can get a hold of him, because I know he's got a
He's a
lot
busy
of
man.
he's got a lot of stuff he likes to talk about too. So definitely going to get
Mhm.
him on here, man.
And I'm also on Nevermore Hollows. So
Oh,
I
you
am
really? Did they write you into the show?
well, not
Are you
only.
just on there taking all the ladies and stuff like that? Is that your job on there?
So maybe we should explain that John Methencamp
Yeah.
is not my real name.
Are you
Um,
serious?
and I don't know if you can tell, but the mullet is fake.
No, that's
Yes.
real hair, dude. Don't ever tell nobody that mullet's fake, man. That's real, bro.
So before we wrap this up, to explain to your audience,
Mm-hmm.
I started my content creation as purely comedy. I played a character called John Cougar Hunter Methencamp, who only chased after older women, and the older women loved him. Okay. And when I was sitting around a campfire one night, and I decided to go on TikTok live, and I was bored, and I just started asking people for their paranormal encounters.
Yeah, man.
So, and it took off. Like people enjoyed it. Well, the weather turned colder, and we weren't camping anymore, and so I started doing it on my couch. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool, but I'm going to separate Methencamp from the paranormal. Okay.
Right.
So I sit down and I think I did 2 or 3 lives on TikTok without the mullet on. And every single time, everybody that came in, their first question was, where's the mullet?
Absolutely, dude. The mullet is Americana, baby. Come on, you got to embrace that. You know.
So when I was like, okay, it's part of my brand. So the mullet stays. So I continued doing these paranormal lives with the mullet. And then I met Alan and Chris up at last year's Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree.
Mm-hmm.
We struck up a friendship. They would come in my lives and, have fun. And Alan's like, dude, just start a podcast. You're doing all the work. You've already got it. Just put it out there as a podcast. So Myths, Monsters, and Mullets was born.
Man, the legend happened. That's the story behind it. That's cool, man. I didn't know that Alan actually got you into podcasting. I thought you guys had met last year and you already had your podcast. That's cool, man.
Well, I went to the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree as Methencamp. Like I was being goofy.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
had my mullet on. I was acting like Methencamp,
Yeah.
And in the storyline that I created, Methencamp was into the paranormal. Because I'd already had my paranormal encounters. I was already looking into Bigfoot and things like that. So in the, I call it the Methenverse. In the Methenverse, Methencamp is into the paranormal, has a paranormal investigation team, things like that. My character, I created an entire backstory with other characters and things like that. So there's this whole universe that I created for Methencamp. Well, after meeting Alan,
what, man, I sit at work. When I do at work, man, I'm kind of blessed. I sit down and little parts come to me, and I do like body work on boats, like I would in a car shop. But like, so I'm by myself all day working on my parts, and dude, I will straight up binge your show all day long, man. I've ran through every one of them so far. I guess now I'm gonna have to subscribe to Spotify so I can get some more content, because I know you just done a show. It looked like it was some lady the other day, and although I keep trying to click on them, they're like, oh man, they're locked. So I'm gonna have to go subscribe so I can listen to those, man, because I guarantee they're awesome.
Actually, the locked content on Spotify is special. It's edited different.
Oh,
okay.
really?
When you listen to my show, I have an intro. I talk about, what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I plug my friends, things like that. I've got a sponsor in the works.
Oh,
So
right.
there's going to be, like a sponsor segment and stuff like that in my show. I have the bumper music at the beginning and the end. That's my normal show.
Right.
If you subscribe for $2.99 a month on Spotify, you get just the interviews. It's
Oh,
no
really?
fluff. There's no extra talking. There's no me pitching my sponsor. There's no
Right.
music. It goes straight to the interviews.
Oh, that's
So
awesome, man.
if you're interested, it's $2.99 a month. It's 10 cents a day.
Come on, everybody, get out there and subscribe to this man's with this luscious hair he's got, man. I'll tell you, if
Now there will be some episodes that are members only.
right,
Some of the content and some of the people that I've interviewed over the last few months that hasn't been released yet,
mm-hmm.
is not going to fly on YouTube. The content is, we're not like sexually graphic, but graphic.
Right.
Things that aren't safe, that children shouldn't be listening to,
Right.
but are relevant. Okay. I will be able to put those on Spotify as member content. But you have to be 18.
Yeah, so as long as it's behind a paywall, you get more liberty to talk about stuff that couldn't go,
right,
on YouTube and stuff like that.
Here in the very near future, you'll be able to get the same content and other content on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee.
That's awesome, man. I encourage anybody that might be listening to me right now. I know I picked up a lot of subscribers over the last week, so thanks everybody that obviously liked my vampire show I put out. Since you guys like that, I'll try to do some more vampire stuff. But if you like shows like this, you're going to love John's show, man. It's Myth, Monsters, and Mullets. I guess you can get it anywhere that, YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. I've binged every single show and can't wait I think you upload every Wednesday, right? Something like that.
Every Wednesday. I do special releases.
Mm-hmm.
This coming week, that'd be the first week of October. Is that correct?
Yeah, this week's going to be the first week of October. Yeah.
Actually,
my
this
favorite
Monday,
month of the year.
I'm dropping a special episode on Monday.
Yeah.
So that's not October quite yet. There's going to be a special episode. I did a collaboration with Ghost Gossip.
Sweet.
That's that one paywall over there.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm going to have to pay to listen to. So I be looking for another subscriber because I'm going to get it before I go back to work Monday because I got to hear that.
All right. But that will be released on Monday with the second part releasing on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
We're releasing on the same day. So it was a collaboration episode.
Okay.
But yes, cool. Normally it is Wednesdays, and then normally my special episodes or my bonus episodes are on Saturday.
That's awesome. I tell you got a great channel, man, and just know that I'm in the background watching you, and you're kind of teaching me everything you're learning to do. You're kind of teaching me, to do it because I do another podcast called Remember That with all my friends, and we review horror movies. That show kind of just runs itself. We just get on there and goof off and have a good time. But the first time I met you, John, I told you I had this idea to do this type of show here, and it's just taken me this long to get it going. So I'm learning, and you're teaching. You don't know it, but you're teaching along the way. So, man, I appreciate you, man, and I encourage everybody that might be listening to this right now, go listen to his podcast because you'll love it, man. He's the master, man, and I appreciate him, and I think you guys will appreciate him too. So, having said that, John, next week, what's it called? Ohio, what? In Bigfoot Conference in Ohio?
The Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree 2 in Ada, Ohio. That's October 4th. Runs from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. You can come out, meet the mullet, get your picture taken. And the lovely Mrs. Fike will be joining me. I talk about her during my episodes and my lives. I also do lives every Sunday night on YouTube and Facebook. There's going to be weeks where I won't be able to do that. This October 5th may be one of those because we'll just be getting back from OBJ. And then there's a couple in November I'm not going to be able to do because I'm going to be on other people's shows. So
there you go, man. And I know in November, I think I'm scheduled to come on your show, and I'm going to tell you about, I have deliberately never told anybody this story, and I'm not going to talk about it because I wanted you to be the first person to put this story out because the stuff that happened to me when I moved into the home I live in now, the first 4 months I lived here should be a movie written by Stephen King or something like that because it's possession, poltergeist, you name it, buddy. And I still live here.
Holy cow.
If you're listening to the first podcast I put out on the Paranormal War Room, I interviewed my friend Dustin and his wife. And that whole interview, because she ended up, I didn't know before I interviewed them, she was a psychic medium. She called herself a medium. Basically, she can speak to the dead. I didn't know that. I was just going to talk to them about some ghost stories they had in their childhood, you know. Well, the whole podcast, they kept cutting out. I couldn't hear them. They couldn't hear me. And I even told them, I said, let's just keep going because hopefully when we upload this, everything will fix itself, you know. And it come to find out, she said, Corky, I'm going to let you know that usually when this stuff happens, somebody's trying to come through me to talk to you. And I told her immediately, I said, I don't want to hear it, you know, because my mom just passed away last year. And if it's mama trying to come through, listen, I don't know how much I believe in that. I do believe in demons and believe in all that stuff. So I basically told her, I said, if something's trying to talk to me, don't tell me because I don't want to hear it, you know, and then this whole time I can be sitting here talking and this door right over here to the right of me has slammed open 2 or 3 times during a podcast. So
holy cow. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
But I'll save all that for your show, buddy. It'll be a good one. I promise you. You'll like it. So,
all right.
And I've never told anybody of those experiences. Huh?
If anybody is interested in coming on my show, they can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. I do have to warn everybody that I am extremely far ahead. So the episode that I recorded on Thursday may not come out till February.
Yeah, I know you interviewed my friend Daniel that's on Remember That with me, and he comes on here sometimes too. And that was what, a month and a half ago, and we still hadn't seen his episode. I told him, I said, he's backed up, man. You just got to get in line. He'll get you posted when he can, because I tell you, man.
I think he's 1st of November.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm at least 2 to 3 months ahead right now.
Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with that because whenever you want to take a break, you've still got stuff to upload. So that's great.
Which I'm doing in December. I'm taking the month of December off from interviews. I will be only doing collaboration episodes during December. So,
well, that's awesome, buddy. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate you coming on here, man. Because I'm at the point where you're backed up for 2 months. I'm trying to just get one scheduled a week for myself, man. So you've helped me out this week. I really appreciate it, man. So,
well, no problem. Anytime. And if you hear a guest that you'd like to have on your show, let me know. I might be able to get you in touch.
Oh, I'll definitely holler at you, man. And if I've got anybody you want to talk to, just let me know. I'll send them your way. But everybody go check out Myth, Monsters, and Mullets. John Methencamp, he is the GOAT. We appreciate him. And having said that, I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.
The unknown awakens, hear the echoes grow loud. We're diving deep, join the curious crowd. In the paranormal war room, we take flight, bring in the spooky vibes, shadows and light. With every beat, the legends we explore, unleashing the spirits, we're ready for more. Down like thunder from the skies. Cryptids lurking near, in the darkness they rise. Paranormal tales that will twist your mind. Tune into the mystery, leave the norm behind. In the war room we fight with the strange insight. Unveiling truths in the paranormal war room. We take flight, bring in the spooky vibes, shadows and light. With every beat, the legends we explore, unleashing the spirits, we're ready for more. So hit that subscribe, don't be left in the dark. Join us in the war, let's make our mark.